Hi, I'm Rita with Everything Homemade, and in this video I'm going to show you how to maintain your sourdough culture, and I'm also going to troubleshoot your sourdough culture as well, and just in general how to keep your sourdough culture going long term. In the first video where I show you how to activate your sourdough culture, I mentioned that it will be a series of 3 videos. I'm actually going to make it only 2 videos as it makes more sense to combine how to maintain your culture and troubleshoot it all at the same time. So I apologize for the confusion. So the first video will be just activating it, and this video will go through, take care of it. I'm also troubleshooting it as well at the same time. So there will not be a third one. It's just going to be the 2 videos. Keeping your sourdough culture happy and healthy is actually really simple once you know what to do. So here is what you need to do. I'm going to go step by step. I'm going to show you what it looks like when you haven't fed it for a little while. I'm going to tell you how to fix that. I'm going to show you how to remove some of the sourdough culture and then refeed it, and what to do on a weekly basis. Sourdough culture does not have to be fed daily. But what is important to note is that to keep your culture happy and healthy, you should feed it once a week. And your culture should be stored in the fridge. Now, if you don't have a fridge, find the coolest place in the house, but don't let it freeze. Just a very cold closet or even cold storage. If for some reason in your area you don't have a fridge, definitely look for the coolest area. Once it's stored in the fridge, the culture is going to slow down. It's not going to go dormant. It's still going to eat the flour. It's just going to multiply slower than it would at room temperature. And that's what we want. We don't want to have to feed our culture every single day, because let's face it, we're not always at home every day. What if we wanted to leave for a weekend? Or maybe even for a week? What do we do with our culture? So once a week is the best for the strongest culture. Now you can leave it for a couple of weeks, but after a couple of weeks, it definitely needs to be fed. I wouldn't go longer than 2 weeks, and you start really stressing out your culture. If you're leaving long term somewhere, then see if you can get a friend to feed it once a week. And I'm going to go over feedings right away. It's not complicated at all. It would take your friend or a family member basically a couple of minutes once a week to do. That's the best way to keep this culture going. So let's take a look at feedings now. And let's take a look at a culture that needs to get fed, so you kind of see the differences between what looks right, what needs to get fed, and that's the most important, is so you know what you're looking at is normal and what to do. Okay, so what I have here is I have the culture that we did together in the previous video. Then I have a sourdough culture that's in a yogurt container, and I also have another one in a yogurt container. So I'm just going to show you some differences here and go through this step by step. Okay, first of all, let's take a look at this one. And then I'm going to open this one here. Okay, so let's take a closer look. Now, this one here has been fed a couple of days ago. You can see the little bubbles here. You can see that it looks active. This one here looks very, very quiet. You don't see any bubbles. Plus, it has this liquid that is forming, and it's kind of, you know what, some people say it's like a dark brownish, some say it's more black. Whatever the case is, This liquid on top is basically it saying I need to get fed really bad. It's created alcohol on top and it needs to get fed. This is not something to get scared about where you would go, oh my goodness, I just destroyed my culture. What is that? No, it's just normal. That's like the byproduct of it eating everything that's in its container that it can consume. The culture is literally starving. And so what I like to do, just drain off this alcoholic liquid. And it'll now look something like this. I'm just going to continue to have this as a comparison. And because my container is fairly full, if I feed it, it's going to rise and it's going to just blow off its lid. So you want to take some of this out. And this process of taking some of your sourdough culture out is called discard. We're discarding some out of our container. I have a bowl right here that I'm going to put all my discard and all the sourdough culture that I am going to pull out because I'll just bake with it after. So I'm going to just take about a cup of sourdough culture out of here. There we go. Now I'm just going to set my bowl off to the side for a moment. And what I want to do then is I want to feed my culture. Now I took about a cup out and I'm actually going to put a cup back in. Remember in the previous video I was talking about ratios. However much liquid you put in is how much flour you also need to put in. So if you put in 1 cup of liquid, you need to put in 1 cup of flour. So let's add 1 cup of water. And again, this is unchlorinated water. So I'm going to add 1 cup in there. And then I am going to add in 1 cup of flour. Then I'm just going to simply mix it. Okay, take a look at that. That looks really good. So it has some headspace here that it can rise, and when it rises, that's just the product of CO2 gases coming out, and that's just a happy, healthy culture. So that looks really good, and you can see the bubbles right here, and that's awesome to see. Now we're just going to set this aside for a couple of hours at room temperature. Leave it at room temperature for a couple hours just to kind of warm up the culture so it can eat up that flour, and then put it in the fridge after a couple of hours. Don't wait any longer than that. Get it into the fridge and it's good for another week. So that's how simple it is just to fix your culture, especially when it has that liquid on top. Now, if it had that liquid on top and you haven't fed it for about 2 weeks, just do the exact same thing, only I would keep this out for 24 hours. Let it completely warm up and let it just get stronger, and then do the discard once more, and then feed it again, and then put it in the fridge. What that does is that in those 24 hours, it's going to really multiply, wake up, get strong. Then if you take some away and then feed it again before you put it in the fridge, what that does is gives it more room to multiply, and you got your culture right back. So I'll set this one aside now because this one's now fed, and leave it at room temperature for a couple of hours, and then I'll put it back in the fridge. I'm going to grab my other culture, and you can see the bubbles here. So let's say a recipe goes, hey, I want 2 tablespoons of culture, and a lot of my recipe book will call for 2 tablespoons or 1 tablespoon. All you need to do is go to your culture, take a cup, there's 1 tablespoon, and you would put this into your recipe. I'm just putting it in my bowl here. Take another tablespoon, And then what you want to do is feed your culture, because now you're removing culture from your mother culture and you need to feed it again. So what I would do here is, again, put in a couple of tablespoons of flour with a little bit of water, couple of tablespoons of water, and then I would mix it up. And that way, whatever you take out, you replenish, and your culture will stay really healthy. And let's say one day you decide that you want to make pancakes, so you take a couple of tablespoons out, then you feed it, and then the next day you do the exact same thing because you want to make some muffins. Keep on feeding it. If this gets too full, because a really active culture will rise what is in here, and if this gets too full because you're doing back-to-back feedings, once again you just remove. So, oh, I got too much, let's take some of this culture out. There we go. Or you find a recipe in my recipe book. Remember that recipe book's coming out at the end of 2023. There's some really good recipes like crepes that use like 1 cup of starter, and it's a really good recipe to get rid of a lot of starter that you want to discard but don't want to throw away. You can make muffins. There's going to be good recipes in there that you don't have to, throw this away. Never throw this away. You can use tons of recipes. So I took some more out, I made some more room, and I'm just going to feed this again a little bit, a couple of tablespoons. Now I'm really good at eyeballing things up here, so if you're not, definitely measure. Okay, and then we're just going to mix this back up. So it's just a matter of remembering, whatever you take out, you put back in, and keep to that 1-to-1 ratio, and your culture's going to be super happy. Super happy. So I'm just going to mix that up. And there we go. And then I would just put this right back in the fridge. If you continue to use your culture once a week or more than once a week, you don't have to let it warm up. It will eat that flour up in no time flat. So just put it right back into the fridge. Did you see that bubble there that happened? Put that right back in the fridge and you're good to go. And that's how easy it is to keep your culture happy and healthy. It's just a matter of following those few guidelines, and you should have no problem of having your sourdough culture last for years and years. Now, if for some reason there is mold or yellow or orange or black or green mold anywhere in your container, or it smells absolutely disgusting, real sour, make sure you get used to what your culture smells like when it's in really good condition. You have that beautiful aroma, that's healthy sourdough smell, and you want to get used to that. You need to know what it smells like when it is happy and healthy, so that way you know what it smells like when it's not. And when you smell it and it smells like mold or something dead, then your whole entire culture is done with. You can't just pick off the mold. Okay, you can't just skim it off or scrape it off the edges. That mold is in the whole thing. Those spores, it penetrates everything and it is done. Throw it out. Don't use it as discard. Get rid of it. Okay, it's done and you need to start over. If you keep it happy and healthy, it's not gonna mold if you follow what I just taught you, but life is life, things happen, and sometimes maybe you had a contaminated spoon, or something got into it and molded it. So make sure all your utensils that you're using are clean. And if you keep a clean environment, your sourdough culture should not go moldy at all. Let's move on to the one that we made together. And this one here, I put in a jar so you can really see what's going on. You see those healthy bubbles? Awesome, awesome. That's the release of CO2. There is a water split here. That's okay, totally normal. Some of it has settled in the bottom. That's okay. It's been sitting in the fridge for the last 4 days. And we should feed this one as well now. And this is just looking so beautiful. You can see that it has risen a bit. We got a good amount of head space. So let's go ahead and just remove about a half a cup of it and just give it a boost of fresh flour. So I'm just going to mix this up at first. There we go. Beautiful. Look at that. Active like crazy. Okay, so let's go ahead. And again, in my discard bowl here, I'm just going to remove a couple of tablespoons. There we go. And if you accidentally just make a little bit of a mess, just tidy it up. There we go. Okay, so I want to add a couple of tablespoons of flour back in here. There we go. And a little bit of water. Again, 1-to-1 ratio. And then mix it up. And there we go. I fed my culture. And you can now either use this for baking once a week or more than that, and just do what I just said about if you use it all the time. And if you don't, just feed it. Just make sure you don't forget, because it is a living organism. And that's it. Fed. Done. And then put your lid back on in the fridge and you're done. Take a look. All done and mixed. So that's how easy it is. And make sure you feed it once a week is the best way. Even if you're not using it, make sure that you take some of the sourdough culture out as discard and replenish it that way. Never throw your discard away. Always use it in some kind of baking, and look forward to my Everything Sourdough cookbook coming out at the later end of 2023. So I hope that answers a lot of your questions and really helped you in maintaining your sourdough culture for long-term use. And I just hope that you can make so many of your favorite sourdough recipes and enjoy the health benefits of sourdough.